The Principality of Monaco, a sovereign city-state built into the side of a sheer, sun-drenched cliff, is arguably the global epicenter of wealth, glamour, and outrageous automotive excess. For years, driving the Grand Prix circuit in anything more exciting than a rental sedan was a distant dream. I'm talking about driving a machine that screams performance, a car designed to defy physics on the track, and doing it on streets where a pedestrian crossing is often paved with marble. The opportunity came thanks to a connection I made at a motorsport event, who casually asked if I'd like to borrow a certain Italian bull for an afternoon spin while he was away on business. That bull was a Lamborghini Huracán Evo Spyder, a retina-searing yellow example of pure, unadulterated speed. The moment I saw it, bathed in the Riviera sunlight, I knew this wouldn't just be a drive, it would be a performance. The challenge wasn't just handling the immense power, but navigating the dense, narrow, and infinitely expensive streets of Monaco itself. Getting the keys felt less like a transaction, and more like receiving a temporary license to print excitement. This was the start of the most high-octane travel day of my life, a journey that promised high fashion, higher speeds, and one totally unforgettable, cringe-worthy moment. Arrival in the Principality. The drive from Nice to the Monegasque border is a magnificent warm-up act, winding through coastal tunnels and along Corniche roads that drop precipitously into the Mediterranean. But nothing prepares you for the sudden, almost cartoonish transition when you officially enter Monaco. It's like stepping through a portal where the saturation levels on reality are cranked up by 500%. I parked the Huracan briefly in a public square, just to soak it all in. The car instantly drew a crowd, mostly polite tourists with phone cameras and a few local residents who gave it the practiced, nonchalant glance reserved only for things that cost more than their secondary homes. The weight of the moment began to press in. I wasn't just a driver here. I was the temporary custodian of a cultural icon, and I was about to pilot it through the most famous, and arguably most congested, street circuit in the world. The adrenaline was already humming, but the real show was about to begin. The Beast Unleashed. Strapping into the low-slung cabin of the Evo Spyder is a ceremonial act. The carbon fiber chassis hugs you tight, the seatbelt click sounds like a high-end vault locking, and the world outside instantly feels distant. This car is an instrument of aggression, yet the interior is refined, all Alcantara, leather, and futuristic digital displays. The real magic, though, is the key. I pushed the ignition button, shielded under a red fighter jet-style flap. The sound was not a start. It was an explosion. The 5.2-liter naturally aspirated V10 roared to life, a guttural mechanical shriek that ricocheted off the canyon walls of apartment blocks. It settled into a purposeful, deep idle that sounded less like a car waiting to move and more like a predator waiting to strike. Even at a standstill, the vibrations promised violence. Pulling away was an exercise in restraint. The throttle response is instantaneous and brutal, designed for racetracks, not for navigating around women walking tiny, designer-clothed dogs. Every millimeter of pedal movement had to be perfectly measured. Moving through the first few meters of traffic was less about driving and more about micromanagement, keeping that beast on a leash while simultaneously trying to look cool. Let me tell you, blending in with a bright yellow 640 horsepower supercar is an impossible task in Monaco, or anywhere else for that matter. The car felt wide, heavy, and impossibly low, scraping every time I considered an ambitious angle over the many curbs and speed bumps. Casino Square, usually reserved for leisurely strolls and high-stakes gambling, became my personal slow-motion proving ground. I passed the historic Hôtel de Paris, the Huracan's engine note echoing beautifully off the neoclassical facades. I waved at a couple of people taking photos, a gesture that felt almost mandatory when you're driving something this conspicuous. The real fun came in the tight, challenging sections, particularly Mirabeau, the Fairmont Hairpin, and the subsequent dip. Here, the car felt truly caged. The Huracan is meant to corner at three-figure speeds, yet I was crawling at 15 miles per hour, clutching the wheel, using the steering to gently massage the car around the bends. The sheer density of this place makes every corner a high-focus maneuver, reminding you that this asphalt, though famous, is not a track. It's a very public, very narrow street that happens to host the most glamorous race in the world. Approaching the mouth of the tunnel, I dropped the window, downshifted to second gear, and switched the driving mode into Corsa, race. The car immediately tensed up, the exhaust valves fully opening, transforming the idle from a growl to a snarl. As I entered the dark, acoustically perfect chamber, I gave the accelerator a firm, quick press. Not a full stomp, but a confident surge. The resulting sound wave was cataclysmic. It wasn't just loud, it was orchestral, a multi-layered mechanical symphony of combustion and reverb. The sound hit the concrete walls and rebounded back, hitting the driver's chest like a physical punch. For a split second, everything else, the stress of traffic, the glare of the sun, the cameras, faded away. It was just me and the machine, celebrating a pure, unadulterated moment of speed and sound. The unexpected hitch. I had successfully navigated the hairpins, survived the glare of the rich, and conquered the tunnel. I was feeling great, cruising slowly along the docks toward the far end of Port Hercule, where the mega yachts are so large they look like cruise ships. And then, it happened. The moment that defined the entire day, and is truly what makes this story worth telling. I was boxed in. Monaco's streets are not designed for the turning circle of a mid-engined Italian supercar. I was forced to pull into an impossibly tight side street, attempting to execute a three-point turn between a delivery van parked illegally on one side and a group of tourists posing for a panoramic photo on the other. I put the car into reverse, the parking sensors screaming in panic, and the yellow beast stalled. The V10 died, leaving an immediate, unsettling silence. And there I sat, in the middle of the narrowest street in the world, in a $300,000 convertible, blocking traffic with a stalled engine. I tried to restart it. Nothing. The heavy, intimidating electronic system needed a moment to reset. The silence was deafening, amplified by the fact that suddenly, everyone was looking at me. The delivery driver was leaning out of his window, chuckling. The tourists were no longer taking panoramic photos. They were taking close-ups of my humiliated face. I looked like the world's least competent rich person. I felt the heat rising in my neck, desperately waiting for the electronic throttle body to allow the engine to fire again. Beyond the speed limit. That stalled engine, that moment of utter vulnerability in the most polished place on earth, was the perfect lesson. Driving a Lamborghini through Monaco isn't about raw speed. It's about the raw experience. It's about the performance, the sound, the spectacle, and yes, the occasional, humbling realization that even in a technological marvel, human error and tight city planning can always win. If you enjoyed hearing about the highs and the very funny, very low stalls, then make sure you've hit that subscribe button. I've got plenty more adventures coming your way, though perhaps none quite as loud.